Discovered my husband spies on me in the shower, questions my habits, and controls my life, making me realize how crazy he is. Like 6 months ago my husband came bursting into the bathroom to catch me using my vibrator in the shower. He threw a hissy fit about it and said that it was basically cheating and guilted me into apologizing and promising not to do it again. The next time we went to use my vibrator, during sex as we basically always did, it had stopped working, mysteriously in hindsight. I often used it in the shower, I guess just because that's basically the only time I get to myself. I eventually just turned to using the shower head, and one time he pounded on the door during to ask what I was doing. Again, I didn't really think much of it at the time. Tonight I was showering, and not doing anything else, and when I came out and he was being short and pissy with me. I asked if everything was okay and he says, "So how was your shower?" I said fine. Confused. He goes on to say he knows what I was doing in there, and I responded by asking what he was talking about, to which he replied that every time I shower he sits outside the bathroom door and listens to see if I'm masturbating. I was so shocked I didn't even know what to say. How can I tell him that this is a violation of my privacy and personal space without him feeling like I'm disrespecting him? Thank you all for your responses. They have been eye-opening. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by how much more severe you're making me realize this is. Well, just as I'm reading all these replies I'm realizing all the different ways. What I eat because he thinks everything is bad for you, what I read because the books I read are also basically cheating, who I hang out with because my friends are all losers dragging me down, that I want to go to the gym because who am I trying to show off for, why am I wearing leggings? Who am I trying to show my ass to, etc., etc., etc. I feel so fucking stupid right now for taking this long to realize that this isn't okay. Update 1. Thank you so much to all of the amazing people who commented and reached out. I wasn't able to respond to anywhere near all of them, but I am so grateful to everyone for opening my eyes to how toxic and unhealthy this situation is. As I stated in this update, I called my dad and basically just explained that we were having some issues, and just to ease my mind I wanted him to come down and be nearby when I talked to my husband. He did not press for more info and told me that he was on his way. He and my mom live / 6 hours away, so it's not exactly a very ideal ask, but he didn't even hesitate, which I am grateful for. He arrived Friday night and parked outside our condo, and we agreed that I'd call him and immediately hang up if I needed him to come inside, in case my husband got aggressive or angry. I did not expect him to, since he never has before, but some of the comments made me feel like I'd better be safe rather than sorry. I debated all day Friday about how exactly to approach this situation and how I could trigger this conversation without him shutting down or getting angry. I decided to casually approach the conversation and ask him how he'd feel about me getting another vibrator, to replace the one that mysteriously broke after he caught me using it in the shower. In response he asked what for? To which I replied because it feels good. I knew this would be his response, but it was something along the lines of what am I not good enough? As it usually was in the past. I explained to him that it has nothing to do with him not being good enough, and that sex is supposed to be fun and experimental and interesting, and that it was just something that would make it better for both of us. He then suggested that I just wanted it to use on myself, to which I asked if that would be a problem. He told me that I know how he feels about that, and so I asked him why he was bothered by the idea of me masturbating. He got very defensive and asked why I would want that when I could have him, so I asked if he ever felt like he'd rather just pleasure himself rather than going through the motions of having sex. He said no, and that he's not a beta who spends his days stroking when he could be doing anything more productive. I explained to him that that was okay if it was his preference, but that sometimes my sexual desires are to pleasure myself versus having sex. That's when his same ridiculous argument came out of that being basically cheating. Pulling from another Redditor, I explained that cheating involves multiple people, and that it is impossible to be cheating if I am alone. He told me to fuck off and go stick the shower head between my legs. I started to get upset and realized that here is when I always back down. I feel the need to apologize and make him feel better. It usually have started something and would end up guilt fucking him because I felt bad, but I didn't. I told him that he made me feel like he was trying to control me and my body and that I wasn't okay with that. He told me I could go be a fucking whore somewhere else then, and got up off the couch and ran upstairs. I could hear him slamming my drawers open and acting like he was putting my clothes in a bag. I resisted the urge to run up there after him and just decided to sit there and see what would happen. Eventually he came back downstairs and apologized and said that he's very uncomfortable with the idea of me masturbating in our home. When I asked him to explain why, he said because it makes him feel unwanted. I told him that this isn't true, and that I do want him, but sometimes I just want that, and he said okay I guess. I decided to leave it at that for the night, and didn't want to press any further. I told my dad it was okay to go and that I was so sorry for wasting his time, and he told me he'd be staying the weekend at a hotel just to be safe. Eventually, we went up to bed and I realized if I left it at that it would just get swept under the rug like it always does. I'd go on putting up with this until it came full circle again, and I was not going to do that to myself. I decided to ask him about him telling me that he listened to me when I showered. I told him I wanted to talk about it, and he told me that he was just joking and that I'm a fucking moron if I actually thought he was serious. I told him that it was an odd joke, especially considering he was angry and very much not laughing when he told me. He insisted that he was joking, and I told him that I didn't believe him. He then responded by saying he wouldn't do it again. This went in circles for a bit before he finally admitted to deciding to do this after catching me in the shower. Instead of accusing him of anything, I asked him if he thought that was an invasion of my privacy, to which he informed me that we are married and I do not have privacy. I told him that was an issue and that in order to have a healthy marriage we both needed privacy. He was determined that there is such thing as privacy in marriage, so I flat out asked him if he wanted me in the bathroom while he was pooping. He said no. I said right, because you want your privacy. He told me that's different. Over the course of the next 10 minutes or so, this escalated from a simple conversation into a full-blown screaming match, and we got absolutely nowhere in our argument. It was like talking to a brick wall. I was so heated by this point that I don't even remember what was said, but he eventually told me I was a fucking worthless whore, that I had nothing without him, that my vag was disgusting and made him sick, that I was fat and no one will ever want me, I'm 125 pounds BTW, that I'm lucky someone like him would even look in my direction, etc., etc., etc. I could barely see my phone through the tears and I called my dad and asked him to come get me. My husband looked at me and said, "Your fucking dad isn't driving 6 hours to come get you, you dumb fuck." I started to grab some random things of mine and yell that he was here staying in town, and he broke down and started sobbing. He told me that he knows he's controlling, that he has serious issues, and that he's terrified of losing me. He said that he knows he's not good enough for me and that he's so afraid of losing me that he's pushing me away to save himself the inevitable heartache. He said that if he ever lost me he'd himself. As I watched this grown-ass man snotting and crying in a heap on the floor, I kinda realized that I feel nothing for him. Like, nothing. The blinders I've been wearing were removed and I no longer saw the handsome, intelligent, caring, strong man I once did. I saw a pathetic, abusive, controlling, sad, and sick person. I came to the realization in that moment that there's no fixing this, and even if he does change, I would never trust him or see him in the same way again. My dad knocked on the door and my husband ran and hid in the bathroom. I took my bags and went outside to meet him. He asked me if I wanted to talk about what was going on and I said no. He asked what I needed from him and I asked if we could just go back to his hotel room. He asked if my husband hit me and I said no. Before we had even gotten to the hotel my husband began texting me. It started with pleading with me to stay and forgive him and turned into insults over the course of the next day or so. He never threatened me physically, but told me if I didn't come home I'd lose him forever, that I'd be losing out on the best man I'd ever have, etc., etc. He told me that his friends laughed at him for being with such an ugly bitch, that his parents hate me because they know I'm not good enough for him, that I couldn't get pregnant because I'm probably a fucking whore banging other guys on the side, that he was embarrassed to be seen with me in public, and so much more. I'm leaving. And no, because Reddit told me to, because I'm genuinely not even remotely interested in staying with him and because I deserve better. I spoke to a friend from school, and will be staying with her until I'm done school next month. After that, I'm going home to figure some things out and get a fresh start. I'm currently in bed in a hotel room with my dad and have never felt more loved or safe. He is going to go over to the house tomorrow and retrieve my belongings, after which he is helping me move into my friend's apartment and then heading home. I don't have much to say at this point other than thank you again to everyone who made me realize how dangerous this situation could have been. I was determined that we were not going to divorce, but after Friday night I don't think there's any going back to that. I'm over it. I might update again, I might not. But making that post genuinely might have saved my life. Thank you. I'm about to go through a divorce with an abusive husband. I'm wondering what are some of the things to consider, how I can get this done quickly and avoid being anywhere near him. I'm planning to move back home at the end of June/early July when I'm done school and it's quite a distance, /6 hours, from where we live now. Will there be any need to travel back and forth? Thanks in advance for the advice. Text message from X, oop, it notifies the other person so pretty much immediately update too. Thank you so very much to everyone for all the caring and reassuring comments, and for your patience in waiting for an update. It's been a roller coaster of a few days, but here's a few updates. I have not blocked his number because I want to collect these messages in case they are needed during divorce proceedings or anything like that. Also, no, I have not responded at any point. Eventually he turned to sending me texts about how he'd been cheating on me the entire time we were together and told me that he fucked 2 girls the night of his bachelor party. I forgot to mention, I wasn't allowed to have a stag party. Whether he's telling the truth or not, I don't really care. He also told me that he can't believe how easy I was and that he never intended to stay with me but that he just wanted to fuck me when I turned 18 and dip. He stopped texting me after sending me an essay on Wednesday about how he was going change and wanted another chance and all that. I have to confess that I almost caved reading that because he was saying things that made me believe that he was telling the truth. This is a very scary time for me and staying is always more convenient, but I just had to remind myself that he was just saying anything he could to try and get his way. I began to realize just how complicated divorce is. It's not just pack up and leave. We have a joint bank account, bundled auto insurance and phone plans, I have his last name, his name is on my car loan, all of our subscriptions are shared, etc. Thanks to all the Redditors who shared great advice with this stuff and I have began the process of severing these ties. I started by canceling all of our shared subscriptions and then deleting our shared email account. I also called our phone provider and they were super helpful and offered to just split our plans, but I wanted to switch to a different company just to be safe and they essentially just canceled my line without much hassle at all. I got a new phone and number and am now on my parents' plan. I also turned off my shared location with him before that, and since, like I said, I've gotten a new number and blocked him on all social media, changed my email address and updated all of my accounts and services with a new email and a new password. I also made a new Apple ID since I can't just buy a new laptop for school given the cost, so that should also ensure he has no access to my info as well. We, my parents and I, met, virtually, with a divorce lawyer that my dad knows and referred me to on Wednesday. She is taking care of getting me off of the joint bank account, locking my credit, didn't even know this was a thing but, thanks to the Redditor who mentioned it, getting his name off of my car loan, and getting the formal process started for divorce. I don't want any money, I just want out as fast as possible. I am moved into my friend's apartment. It's a 2-bedroom/2-bathroom, so I stole her library/office/music room, but she was so accepting of me joining her and having our own space is nice even if it's just for a couple months. I am so grateful to her for letting me stay and not even questioning it. As many of you mentioned, yes, my dad is a literal rock star. He, my mom, and my friends have all been so helpful and supportive and I cannot thank them enough. My dad went to the house Monday to retrieve my belongings and he took my friend's boyfriend with him, mostly just to help pack and move everything as fast as possible, but also just in case he was home and anything went sideways. My dad said he was home and refused to answer the door at first but eventually did and just sat at the kitchen table the entire time they were there. I don't own much. I took a bunch of clothes and essentials like bathroom stuff and electronics with me when I left, so they were in and out in like 45 minutes. Basically everything in that house in his and was purchased with his own money. My divorce lawyer is basically taking care of everything because I seriously need to focus on school right now, but I want this process wrapped up as quickly as possible. My exams wrap in late June and I'm trying to be calm and patient because if I'm just in a huge rush to get out of here, I fear that my exams will go very poorly. My friend is helping me a lot with studying and getting prepared and I always join study groups in preparation for exams, which are super helpful as well. No, this is not the first time he's turned to insults during an argument or when he doesn't get his way, but it's by far the most hurtful and explosive. I am 100% committed to divorce and I will not be looking back or changing my mind, no matter what happens at this point. This is a promise that I have made to myself and it's a promise that I really struggle to make. I still feel sick and have a constant nerve in my stomach, because the idea of actually leaving and starting over is extremely terrifying. Thankfully I have a great support network and know that I will have people there to help me through this every step of the way. I also just keep reading the messages he sent me the last few days and reminding myself that no one talks to someone they love like that and that he is no example of a man I want to spend the rest of my life with. My dad went home yesterday, reluctantly I might add, and he and my mom are both coming back to visit next weekend. Also, if you think that this is fake or exaggerated, I genuinely could not care less. I am the one living this shit and I do not need people downplaying the trauma I am going through. I also do not need to hear that you think I'm overreacting or that I'm in the wrong. The event I originally posted about is not the only reason I am leaving. I am leaving because that post and those commenting opened my eyes to just how controlling and abusive this man is and always has been. Thanks, think that's it for now. Thanks so much to all of you for being so great to me. This is the hardest thing I've ever gone through, but I just keep reminding myself that I will be okay and that I can do this.